Thank you.
So anyway, thanks for the invitation. So, as we mentioned in the introduction, I'm Stephen Barr. I'm an engineer by training. I come from a family of aerospace engineers. My grandfather was part of the design team for the Bristol Beaufighter, and my father was an apprentice at Rolls-Royce. I sort of bucked the trend. I'm a civil engineer. So when we get around to making a pre-stressed concrete aircraft, I'm definitely mad for that. But what I've done for the last 10 years is focus pretty well exclusively on manufacturing. I'm privileged to lead the manufacturing advisory service for 2 or 3 years until we were so successful the government had to pull the plug on that and try to get European money to fund what we were trying to grow into doing. Didn't necessarily turn out very well. But what I'm doing with my colleague Randy Goodenall is working ever more closely with SMEs in the manufacturing sector. So we're talking about suppliers, makers, and customers for manufactured goods and services. And our passion is around helping them to start out and to sustain their digital journeys. So this title suits us very well indeed. Digital journeys in ways that I'll come on to explain in a moment, come on to discuss. But we find, I'm really interested to hear your perspectives on this as well. We find it's those smaller companies, up to, say, 200 employees, 50 million turnover, something like that, who are the coolest about making progress with digital technologies. You know, they hear from Made Smarter and from other organizations, from other initiatives, how good this stuff is, and yet the message is not convincing enough for them. We're trying to build the evidence, we're trying to give them the confidence to move forward. And I'm also very lucky to be the managing director of the Digital Readiness Level Tool organization, DRL-tool.org. My friends at Valuechain are also very strong supporters of that initiative. This is a cross-industry initiative. I should click on that and give us a more useful slide. Moves forwards, backwards. Yeah, this is a cross-industry initiative. These organizations, including the High-Value Manufacturing Catapult, the Digital Catapult, Valuechain, as I've mentioned, Edge Digital, and the manufacturer, all very much involved in bringing together an understanding of how digital can help those smaller companies, and I'll say a little bit more about that later on as well. Digital journeys means different things at different levels. So if you think about this at an industry level, the Made Smarter campaign, for example, talked about connecting, engaging, helping organizations to participate, championing progress in the industry. They pointed to colossal amounts of potential benefits for UK industry as a whole. And perhaps in these days of the B word, this is going to be even more significant for us. Is it significant I could only find one Union Jack cufflink this morning? I don't know. At the industry level, I think nobody's in any doubt of the potential for digital technologies to help us move forward with growing economic strength and economic diversity, not just relying on the financial sector, and also employment. If you think about this at a business level, it needs to become much more specific, because nobody's going to invest in digital technologies unless it makes business sense, unless it provides a return on investment. So okay, we hear about improvements in productivity, competitiveness, and growth. But so what, unless I can make it relevant to my business right now, or at least in the very near future, where cash flow is so important. Again, you can see particularly why that's of interest to SMEs. But actually, where it really makes a difference, where the sticking points are, where we're really experiencing those sticking points, is at the personal level. Because ultimately, digital technology in manufacturing is fundamentally about change. And that's a personal experience. So unless we can persuade the people in supply organizations, in manufacturers, in their customers, persuade them to move forward with digital technologies, it's not going to work at business level, it's not going to work at industry level. And part of the reason is just all of those technologies that we see floating around. Yeah? So many buzzwords, so many 3-letter, 4-letter abbreviations. Who knows what technologies are right for a particular organization and particular industry with their particular opportunities in the market right now. So that's what we're up against as an industry. We find that one of the most helpful things we can do is help individuals, and then therefore the businesses that they work for, to understand where they are right now and where they might get to with a bit of help, or with a bit of investment, or with a bit of strategy as to how to employ digital technology. And this is where the digital readiness level tool comes in. So this is the 9-point scale of digital readiness. And I'm sure you'll all be familiar with manufacturing readiness level, MRL, and technology readiness level, TRL. And in fact, some of the people who worked on those indices were also involved in the early days of pulling together the DRL tool, which we launched last summer, 6 months ago, 7 months ago in Liverpool. We're now up to something like 200 users, getting on for 200 users, and a real momentum building around using this tool, which is free, online, and I'll say a bit more about that later on, to help them move forward. So let me say a little bit more about what's going on in the industry at the moment, using digital manufacturing. So Ravi and I have been privileged to work with a number of organisations over a number of years in the manufacturing sector, really getting to understand how they use digital technologies, what makes them successful using these technologies. And we were reflecting on this in one of a recent article that we put into the Manufacturer magazine. I should have mentioned, by the way, that digital manufacturing is a bit of a spin-out from the Manufacturer organisation, you'll know them as an events and publishing company. So we spun out from that to focus specifically on digital manufacturing. But what we do through that is come across people with inspiring stories to tell. So inspiring people, inspiring know-how, inspiring leadership. So let me just pick out a few examples of those, just to show the kind of things that we hope will inspire others to take digital technologies forward. If milling machines could fly, then Hosokawa would be a fantastic example of how to lead the market with industrial Internet of Things technologies. So they make milling machines for the pharmaceutical sector. They were leading the way 10 years ago, and now absolutely stolen the march in the industry, to help their customers to make the most of the data that their machines generate. So they can optimize their machines, they can get their production working as effectively as it's possible to make fantastic savings on their product. So think about how that could work in the supply chains of aerospace companies as well. Tarsus I should say, I keep forgetting to pronounce it. It's transformed itself from a traditional, let's say, metal bashing organisation into an organisation that works really closely with its customers in the aerospace sector, also retail. We work very closely with Ocado, famously, providing smart machines to do whatever it is that company needs to be able to do as efficiently and as market-leading a way as possible. So it's changed the game for Ocado as a supplier. It also mentioned Jira Automotive Systems, so they have a homegrown ERP system. Amazingly, they backed some of their employees to come up with their own ERP system. And actually on their production line, it's made a colossal difference. So they're real sort of grassroots examples of how digital technologies can work for organizations, where they can see the benefit pretty well from the beginning. I'll say more about these organizations again in a moment, and we can pick up questions on those as well, if that would be helpful. Let me say a little bit more about the digital readiness level tool itself. It's a sophisticated tool. Bear in mind that all those organizations I mentioned on the first slide, you see them in the banner here, Digital Catapult, Innovate UK, with their full manufacturing tool, all of these organizations already had tools. Tools for benchmarking digital readiness levels. So why did we all come together? Well, the answer was to try to plug a gap that we all spotted in the manufacturing sector for a strong, trustworthy, or reliable gateway into digital technologies. We're all specialists in different areas. So Ravi and I, with Edge Digital, tend to focus on strategy and on driving value out of digital technologies. Others are much more focused on the digital stuff themselves. You can imagine the catapults are really into that. So what we try to do is to find a common way of getting into this. So these dimensions, you can see there are a number of dimensions around, portrayed graphically around this tool. These give insights into every aspect of what a business should be interested in. So it covers the financial side, the business case side, the people side, the technology side. And in those 10 factors there, technology, systems, processes, networks, into strategy, into skills, into workforce, we're touching on all of those dimensions. So we're trying to give the most comprehensive diagnosis of how a business is currently with its market opportunities and where it could be in the future to exploit those market opportunities. So just in a little bit more detail on that. The Digital Readiness Level tool has two versions, a coffee break version, I should say. Other beverages are available. It takes about 10 minutes to do. And there's also a very detailed 74-question version, which takes about an hour to do. And that gives a very rich picture indeed of the readiness of an organization to take up digital technologies. And this is the kind of output you get from it. So it gives you a nice spider diagram of your position against the 10 dimensions. And the input data to that gives a real opportunity to understand where a business is, where it could be going, and in particular, back to the point about collaboration and people and change, it gives an opportunity for the business to come together to understand how they can move forward together. And we find actually that is the crucial factor. Digital technology is not about the technology. It's about getting the people to figure out how it can help them and their business to leap forward. This is just one of those 74 questions, just to give you some kind of impression. So the questions are of this style. Does your organization have a formal strategy concerning the business activities? Well, yeah, most people will have some kind of formal strategy, but you get a higher score, clearly, if your business strategy already includes some element of digital. What we're not saying, I should mention, is that everybody should be trying to get a level 9, digital champion. That's hardly ever going to be relevant. We're not saying that digital technology means smart factory, because for most of the organizations we work with, it may be different in the aerospace sector, but for most of the organizations we work with, that will never be appropriate. Partly because of the cost, partly because there isn't enough space in the market for all organizations to be fully up to the level of a smart factory. Bearing in mind what that means fully connected from supply chain right the way through into customer. What most companies that we work with tend to do is find that niche that works for them. So with Hosokawa, it's specifically about the connection with their customer that gives them a massive market advantage. They don't need an entire smart factory. For Viking Science, a relatively small company, they've gone the whole hog. They've got a market lead, printing science, metal science, quite sophisticated science, RFID tags, that kind of thing. For them, that whole supply chain pull, customer pull thing, is absolutely what makes sense for them. Different strokes for different folks. Yeah? I mentioned those partners, if you like, in the Digital Readiness Level tool organization. We refer to each other when we have organizations who have particular needs. So as I mentioned, Ravi and I with Edge Digital tend to focus on strategy and driving value out of an investment. Others much more involved in the technical side. So we work very closely at the moment with the Manufacturing Technology Centre. We certainly know how to refer to others to do the right thing at the right time. And that's important. We're not pretending to be the experts in everything that has to do with manufacturing and digital. But we sure know the people who are, because that's what we try to do. I would say join us is the call to action from here. So we have a number of organisations at the moment who happen to be the ones who got together at the beginning. We're very, very interested indeed in finding new experts, new solution providers, new people who can bring something of value to manufacturing companies who want to digitalize. And we wanted really expertise in the whole panoply of technologies and of supporting processes to make that happen for them. So do come and talk to us if that would be of interest to you to join that growing band of solution providers with the Digital Readiness Level tool. If you forgive me, I will talk just a little bit about Edge Digital. So this is the organisation that Ravi and I have set up, spin up from the Manufacturing magazine. We came up with this, what we thought was a lovely ABC process. So what we're trying to do is help suppliers, makers, and their customers to analyse their opportunity in the marketplace, to understand what it is they can do better with digital technologies than they can do without digital technologies. And we have what we call our Digital Insights report for that. So we, on the back of the DRL tool results, we help organisations to understand, to interpret what that really means for them. How big is their opportunity? We also help them to understand what their financial propensity is to move forward. What is the likelihood they'll be able to raise the finance or generate the finance to support a big leap forward. In other words, we help them get real about what the opportunity is and what their strategy should be. The next step is breakthrough. Breakthrough to a position where there is consensus within the organisation. This is a workshop process. We help them to develop a vision for using digital technologies and a roadmap for using digital technologies, with all those other things that go with it, the change management aspects, the people, the finance, and so on. All together into a cunning plan, which is creating momentum to move forward, which is effectively a digital business case. So that's it, short, simple, deliberately short and straightforward, ridiculously cheap. Although we find ourselves, because we're so keen to try to get organisations moving forward with digital technologies, we've been doing quite a lot of pro bono work, just to get them moving at this early stage, to get them excited about what we can achieve. And that's been very successful. We're rather too busy at the moment. I don't know how to put you off. We're always keen to talk to more manufacturers. Finally, ultimately, what we're trying to do is help them get to the point where they can maximise the value from whatever investment it is they've made. And of course, it won't surprise you to get involved in change management. And supporting for change management is part of that. That's enough about us. My challenge to you, in digital manufacturing, and maybe thinking about organisations that you work with or organisations that you represent, are you ready? You don't have to look at the 74 questions, though I'd love you to go on and use the free online DRO tool. You don't even have to do the 10 minutes of the coffee break. Here's 5 seconds. Ask yourself 5 questions. Okay, it's probably 10 seconds, isn't it? Do you have a clear vision? Are your people excited about the prospect of using digital technologies? Have you thought about which types of digital technologies might make a difference in your business? And it only has to be might at this stage. Are you thinking about how you can measure whether those digital technologies are helping you move forward or not? And do you have the skills and the aptitudes necessary in those particular technologies? Whether you do or don't, there is a future for organisations with digital. What we're trying to do is wake people up or get them excited about what they can achieve. That's what the Digital Readiness Level tool is all about, and that's what Edge Digital is trying to support and following on from that. Love to take any questions that you have about DRL tool or about anything to do with advancing digital manufacturing in the aerospace sector.
Yeah, I mean, like concepts. Yeah, it's one of the better ones. 1 to 9 makes more logical sense than some of the others. Now, I mean, my question is, if you went to an organisation such as an SME of 250 or 200 employees, and they said, yes, we want to make a change, where do you bring in the key skills from? Because this is the problem with Make Smarter, is that all of a sudden they're going to go, right, I need somebody for AM, some AR, AI. There's no collaborative with the SMEs, the real micro SMEs that are running 100 miles an hour to then be pulled into these things. And this is what we find, is and then we don't get paid for this. We get the crumbs at the end, if that makes sense. And so if you went in and said, I'm going to deliver AM, I'm going to deliver AI, and they go, right, you bring me up, and they're right, how much is it going to cost? And I'm not going to pay, just go there and do it. That's how it is at the moment. I'm hoping Make Smarter will reverse that trend. Currently, all the money gets lost in transition down the lines, and the SMEs get left behind. We have to do it ourselves at our own cost.
That is exactly what the pilot is set up to do.
It's
to test that proposition.
It's sorted out. I mean, this is one of the key problems and the barriers we find from SME to get technology into their business. You know, who's making the most money? Is it the SME or is it the Airbus supply chain? It's the Airbus supply chain, so they should pay in theory. So try and get them to open their purses and go, here's £100 for saving us 10 million over 10 years.
This is why we need to help them start as well as to sustain it. Because a lot of them won't even start to invest in digital technologies. They need to understand what that business case is, they need to understand what the possibilities are. So that's one of the main things we're trying to address with DRL tool. And we're involved with the engaging at the moment with the Northwest Partner Group to try to get DRL tool as kind of one of their front-end tools. At the moment they're using for manufacturing. For KTM, which is a fantastic tool. We work closely with that.
I mean, the thinking is correct, but it makes smart. And one of my biggest bugbears is going in people that are behind the digital times.
Yeah.
So I still strongly believe manufacturing advisory service should have never gone. It was the best thing for our business at the time. It was brilliant. It was more connected than anything I've seen. to date with. But I think the SME should be going in to the businesses as a collective and giving them a full up-to-date overview of what their business could change. Because if somebody goes in without that full knowledge, then they're going to present the wrong picture.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. So we go in and mop up and lose out basically. So somewhere something's got to change in the UK on funding for SMEs. It's getting further and further apart and inherently more problematic for tiny companies to grow fast.
Well, I really think on this particular issue of digital technologies in manufacturing, the Northwest Pilot, the Made Smarter review, is a really important step forward, and it took a lot of fighting to get to that point.
Yeah. And it's direct from base as well, which cuts out all the usual routes, which I think is brilliant. But there's still out of 20 million, you've got probably 6-7 million of overheads over 3 years. So you soon down to 13.
Yeah.
Then the 13 gets divvied out, and then by the time the SMEs get pulled in, I've got a couple of grand here. That's what it went up as.
And it was one of the reasons why NAS got pulled. So there is a danger that we'll go the same way, but I really don't believe it will.
No, I hope it doesn't. Alan Dilworth's got a manufacturing, and he's brilliant, and I get on really well with him, but I still say to him, well, if I'm walking into that business, where's my money coming from? Because otherwise I'll go somewhere else and get a job and get paid.
Thanks.
What is your definition of a digital manufacturing company?
I think that is there's so big a spectrum, it's not necessarily very helpful to think of a single thing, a digital manufacturing company, because if you think of that spectrum that goes from 1 to 9, towards the left-hand end, clearly you've got companies who haven't really thought about it, but when you get up to 3 or 4 on that scale, you've got organisations who are making a pretty darn good go of, for example, ERP, making that work on their production lines, and that's a fundamental for most. We find actually with several of our customers who probably ought to remain nameless, they've got ERP, it's 10 years old, but it's now failing to support what some of the departments want to do, so they're doing workarounds. The issue is not so much whether they've got technology, it's about whether their people are using it most effectively. But further up that food chain, further up that scale, towards the right-hand end, towards the 7 or 8, you've got even SME organisations who are pretty close to fully automated from supply chain through to customer. So some have spotted that what they really need to get right is customer pull. The ability of their customers to specify and to design online. That's the thing that's going to give the manufacturing company the market advantage. It strikes me that all of those companies are digital manufacturers to some degree. Very few of them, we find very few are doing the full smart factory thing because it's too big an investment for them, but they're progressing towards it. And they may find an annual incremental business case means that every year they can move closer and closer to it. I think they're all digital manufacturers to some degree. They're all successful in finding the thing that works for them. And that's what we're trying to encourage, the right thing at the right time.
I think you're right. I think there's a few things I've seen with the SC21 programme is that the like-minded, visionary managing directors of companies who have the long-term goal, not short-term, invest a bit now, then let that absorb and then might invest in the future.
Yeah.
The ones that actually have the long-term vision are the ones that bring that move into the top.
Okay.
So all the award-winning companies have very visionary MDs who want to invest long-term in the business, and those are the ones that are moving to the top.
Yes.
Companies that are sitting at lower levels do little pockets of stuff and then wait for the next funding pot to come along.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of what these companies are doing down here.
I'm completely with you about visionary leaders. So we see this at IMI, at Fausus, at Hossikawa.
Yes.
Yeah. It may be coincidence, they're all passing in front of the manufacturer and we're looking for good companies to make case studies out of, so it's a little bit self-fulfilling, but they are.
But then when it's take risk, a greater risk than risk-averse people.
Indeed.
That's the
Well, a greater risk, but based on greater understanding of what the opportunity is. And again, that's what, yes.
Exactly, going back to the 5 questions that you had before this final slide. In most major businesses, in my experience, you'd be hard-pressed to find any person, any individual who could answer all of those questions. Yeah. They'd have some idea on some of the questions. There is no focused understanding. And it's very difficult for senior managers to get the right advice at the right level. You were talking earlier about investment. I remember being told personally by Weinstock, there is no investment, only cost. And all businesses, particularly big businesses, are driven finally by commercial realities. So the visionaries have to be able to combine their, if you like, ideas with commercial realities.
And get that balance straight, yes, yes. The gentleman here.
Yeah, sorry, Richard Smith from Carlson Associates. There's a whole raft of stuff here. I'll just pose a couple of comments on the questions. I mean, digitalisation, investing in tools and all the rest of it, is, to me, a danger of trying to persuade someone to invest in something. But actually, what are they trying to achieve by doing that? And I would suggest a common thread throughout all of this is actually information. The point that you were taking about somebody not knowing something, therefore late abilities, they didn't have the information. My background is military, command and control, stuff like that. So information is the bread and butter. We have buzzwords like digitalization, we have buzzwords like cyber defense. What we're really talking about is management, protection, generation, transfer, and generation and consummation of information. So would not an approach which actually comes down to building an information architecture be an approach which might facilitate what tools are procured, when they're procured, why they're procured, and what they're done for?
Yes, yes.
I think that's a really good point.
So in fact, the high-value manufacturing category has picked up on exactly this point. So we're trying to help them to develop case studies that give exactly that kind of information. So it's partly around the inspiring stories.
I mean, what I've done this, not in this country, but in the Middle East in particular, on the security, in the security sector. But basically, you build your business processes, concept of operations, call it what you will, and out of that you can define your information requirements, your intelligence requirements, and you can then define the sources and sinks of those information, the tools that are needed to generate, control, consume, assure that information. Because a key element in the whole of this digitization is the authenticity and assurance of the information. Because as soon as that goes wrong, you are in big trouble. Now that may not be an attack on information, maybe the information when it's generated is actually inaccurate in its first right. So there's a whole thread of stuff through this which I think, really adds to all of this stuff. And I'm not decrying it, but what I'm saying is I haven't heard the word information yet today. But I would advocate that as a key element of the whole of the implementation of this strategy.
Yes, and I think you see elements of that coming through the Northwest Pilots, because that is a key factor there. But I think also at an industry-wide level, through HVMC and through others, so hopefully you'll see that coming. But I totally agree, that's needed.
You talked about the MOD, and Hans and I are working on I won't say the project, it's been running for 10 years. It's running on Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, blah, 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 blah. There are 610,000 documents, and they still haven't got the requirements based on them. Now, one of the things is that there's a great reluctance to change, because change implies retraining, etc., etc. So there is an enormous hysteresis loop in large organizations, which are up against. Even in small organizations, change implies cost, and unless the business case for that cost is robust, they're not going to move.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I thought one of the early slides was quite germane as much as you talked about industrial issues in the personal side. I have seen a number of examples where the MRP system will tell you your schedule, but it doesn't meet your customer requirements. So the person operating the MRP system, guess what? It's an Excel spreadsheet, it's a workaround, and guess what happens then? You end up with arrears, you can't get rid of it because you can't pay.
And you end up with false information, inaccurate duplicate information, which is not coherent, etc.
Exactly. So the biggest, most important part is the people part. The DRL of digital movements. People are ready, but any system you like in place is the best digital solution you could ever have. But if the answer they want, they'll look around.
That's the basis of the question that I asked, like I said, was a big issue. Last week, I spent a week in a country in Eastern Europe. They've got a modern ERP system, they've got simulation tools, they've got a proper product data management system, they've got CATIA 5, and yet it's a 50 million turnover company with about 750 people employed. They have 15% scrap. they are losing 17 people a month, and they're in the automotive and aerospace industry, and every single one of their programs is in arrears. So you've got all these suite of what you'd say are the right sort of modern tools in a manufacturing company, but yet the company somehow are just not using them to perform.
So were they abandoned by their provider too early, or have they moved on? Is they outgrown the ERP system?
I think it's a lot about the discipline of the people using the tools, and whether the people have been properly trained, whether there's adequate time for the front end of the program. What I saw was that inadequate engineering, so they hadn't got a proper structured gate process, so that engineering was going into manufacturing in an immature way, and then they were having to re-engineer in machining, in the machining phase, so machines were not, they weren't getting a good OEE on equipment, and all that was, something I've never seen before. We started out, they launched the order into the company, but then at a particular point in the business, they cancelled that order because they knew that they would have 50–60% scrap, and they created another order for the 40% that was left. It's unbelievable, because then they have to start again, which will inevitably lead to cost and that.
So it sort of spirals out of control.
Yeah. So when you have a grand title like digital manufacturing, it doesn't mean a lot to me, to be honest. What you've just explained is the cohesion, how you take all these modern tools and you're able to integrate those into a differentiated high profitability capability is probably a better description.
It's an involved word, cohesion, I think. If you take most major businesses, which are broken down into departments, and go in and ask those 5 questions, each department would have a different response.
And
And bringing them together is
Yeah.
the managing director's problem. Where does he get his advice from?
Yes.
Where is the expertise?
Yes. And the answer comes from